Death Trick, Donald Strachey Mysteries, Book 1. Author, Richard Stevenson. Publisher, MLR Press. Narrator, Eric L. Aust. Chapter 24. You've got a lot of nerve, Strachey, coming in here. And because we're such nice guys, the DA and I decided during the excitement last night not to go to the trouble of prosecuting you and your pal Blunt. And now you waltz in here like you own the goddamn city of Albany and start badgering me and asking me for favors. I've run into some pretty deluded perverts over the years. But Jesus, mother, you take the cake, Strachey. You surely do. I said, what a crock. You owe me a big one and you know it. I just want to borrow the thing overnight. We'll have it back first thing Sunday morning by noon, anyway, or 1. He shifted in his chair and caused the holes and nodules on his face to move around. I'd have to know your intended use for the device, he said. That thing is worth a lot of money. And if it got damaged in any way, they'd make a note of it and take it out of my pension. When that holy day comes, and that pension is already so piss-poultry, the wife and myself will probably end up in some trailer parked by a meter on Central Avenue. Now, what the hell are you going to do with it? I can tell you this much, Ned. The device will be used in a manner your department will approve of entirely. I'm talking about law enforcement. It will be used to collect evidence against a man. I plan to provide the DA with another warm criminal body for Judge Feeney to pounce on and gobble up. And if you'd like, I'd be happy to mention your name in connection with the apprehension of this disgusting public menace. He cringed. You can skip the last part. An hour later, before I had lunch with Timmy at his apartment, I phoned Sewickley Oaks. This is Jay Tarbell calling for Stu Blunt. Mr. Blunt's son, William, has been located, as you may know, and Mr. Blunt wishes now to proceed with the boy's treatment. He would appreciate your picking up the boy late tonight, and I'd like to discuss the arrangements. The boy is rather distraught, I'm afraid, and might put up some resistance. I'm sure, though, that your staff can come prepared for any eventuality. Oh, I see. Well, Dr. Thurston has stepped out, but I know the doctor thought perhaps Mr. Blunt might have changed his mind. I mean, considering what happened last night. We saw the TV reports, and we thought, not at all, not at all. The boy is no longer under suspicion of murder, of course, but sad to say, young William is still queer as a $3 bill, so to speak. And you do have Judge Feeney's order in hand, do you not? Oh, yes. As well as the substantial first payment of Dr. Thurston's fee? Oh, certainly. Well, then, let's get on with it, shall we? Let's lay out a plan. Now, I must tell you that young Blunt has altered his appearance and that he has assumed an alias. I'll be calling later tonight with further details. But for now, let me just pass on to you Stu Blunt's instructions. Saturday night at Truckey's, after a warm-up at the terminal, we drove out western just after 11 o'clock. As we went in, Cheryl Delcher's "Here Comes My Baby" was on. Truckman was at the door, a drink in hand, and I told him I'd like to see him in his office, that I had an apology to make. He smiled feebly and said, "Sure, Don, sure. Give me 10 minutes. We ran into the Alliance crowd and learned that the judge had denied a restraining order against the Bergenfield police, and that Jim Nordstrom, out on bail, was planning to close the place if it was raided one more time. Despite the absence of any discernible warm feeling for the Rat's Nest and its approach to gay life, there was real anger among the movement people over the sour indifference of the legal establishment toward the harassment of a place that detracted from the moral fitness of no one who chose not to go there. The human machinery of the law was smug and petty and substantially corrupt. That was what hurt. No one could figure out what step to take next, and I did not tell what I knew. I went looking for Mike Truckman, found him, and ushered him almost forcibly into his office. I said, "I did think you had something to do with Steve Kleckner's death. Mike, It was mainly because of the company you keep, and your booze problem didn't help. You've got one, and you'd better do something about it. Fast. Anyway, I was stupid and wrong-headed, Mike, and I hope you'll forgive me." He raised his glass, tried to smile, and set the glass down. "Forget it, Don. Shit. I guess you had your reasons. Let's pretend it never happened. I'm game if you are. We need one another, all of us. Gay people can have their differences, sure, but when push comes to shove, we gotta stick together, right, buddy?" "That's well put, Mike. Which brings up a painful but related matter." He'd been glancing at the manila envelope I'd carried in with me, and now he watched me open it and spread the photos out across his desk. He sat blinking, his mouth clamped shut, and peered at them. I said, "You know what you have to do, don't you? If you're going to get your head together and come back to us, Mike, you've got to start by dealing with this shit." He managed to get his mouth open far enough to rasp. Yeah, I guess I know." I took off my jacket and shirt, and I removed the Albany PD microphone, wires, and recorder from my torso, and placed them on the desk alongside the photos of truckmen handing money to the Bergenfield police chief and his plainclothes associate in payment for the raids on the rat's nest. I said, "Before I show you how to work this thing, I'd appreciate your answering a couple of questions." He blinked boozily at the display on his desk and said, "Oh, God." I called Sewickley Oaks from a payphone up the road from Truckey's. Then I walked back to the disco and danced with Timmy, among others, until closing. The usual crowd was on hand. Phil, Mark, Calvin, the rabbi. And while most people were subdued at first, only just beginning to recover from the shocks of the past week, one by one each of us gave in to the New Year's atmosphere that gay life can, with luck, produce 2 or 3 times a week. By the time Billy Blunt arrived with Huey Brownlee at 2:30, the mood was entirely festive, even celebratory. The DJ played. Put your body in it. And everybody did. At 4:40, Timmy and I crouched behind the pile of trees next to the Bergenfield police station. We watched while Mike Truckman handed over a roll of bills. Timmy took more pictures. The 3 men lingered longer than they had the last time we'd watched this scene unfold. Truckman was making sure everyone's voice was recorded, that he got it all. Truckman drove away first, as he had the last time, then the chief, then the plainclothesman, the asshole in the windbreaker who'd frisked me and spoken disrespectfully during the raid at the rat's nest. As the plainclothesman pulled his Trans Am onto Western, 2 unmarked vans that had been parked nearby came to life and pulled into his path, blocking him. The man in the windbreaker jumped from his car, cursing and sputtering, and we could make out the look of befuddlement on his face when the back doors of the vans were flung open and 70 extremely large men in white jackets poured out and surrounded him. One of the big, beefy fellows waved a document in the cop's face, and then they carried him off. He fought, but the straitjacket fit nicely. Within 3 minutes, they were gone, and Timmy and I fell laughing raucously into the pile of tires. Epilogue. Eddie's Stores was locked up again, this time forever. Stuart and Jane Blunt fled back to Saratoga. Chris Porterfield returned to Albany. Timmy and I had a nice Sunday brunch with her at Margarita Mays, and they sold us a February vacation trip to Key West. Billy Blunt moved in with Huey Brownlee, at least temporarily. Mark Deslandi, who had gone back to his apartment that Friday night to pick up some belongings and gotten distracted by his mirror, moved in with Phil permanently, and I moved in with Timmy. Late on the first night at my new home, I said to Timmy, "One thing, when you and Blunt were in that cubicle at the Tubbs that day, what'd you two do all that time?" "Oh, fucked and whatnot." Blunt was worried about his sexuality. He said he needed a reassurance. Why'd he ask? "Oh, just wondering." Some Jesuit, this wasn't going to get easier. Gay Mysteries audiobooks. I think it is easy to hate a label, but a face humanizes the word. So this effort is twofold: to offer comfort to those like myself that your world didn't end because you don't fit into the view of acceptable society on both sides, and in hopes of helping those with family that are LGBTQ, that it doesn't mean we are aliens from the child they once knew. Reassure them so they can maybe be supportive at the same time, being true to their values.